It's time to have component types and talk about custom data components type so that we get rid of this to-do and fix our tuner item and player teleport and get rid of those NBT data that we were using so far when we were clicking on a block and when we were clicking on entity or when we were showing the tooltip. If you recall, we had these NBT data that we were putting on the item using the data component types custom data. It's time to get rid of the NBT and develop our own custom data component type. When we want to add our own custom data component type, we have to use codecs. Thankfully, finally we understand what are the codecs and how we can use codecs and how can we write our codecs. To have a data component type, we need to add a new registry. Now I will put it under miscellaneous and I will call it mod data component types. It's a little bit of a big name, but that's okay. Here I will have a public static void in it. Now, if you notice, I moved away from using the name register because I did a massive refactor. What I did is that I took away every one of those helper methods for registering the blocks, the item, the block entity, recipes, armor material, and I put them inside this registers class. The reason is that I want to have a library mod that will have all these things that I put under utils. Basically, in every single mod, I have to rewrite these helper methods, at least few of them every now and then. And I don't want to do that. We will talk about library mods in future. However, because these are called register, if I open my mod items, when I come down, you see that I call register because I have this static import on top. This is what I type myself. Import static Jiraiya UIO utils registers.item star means that under the items in this class, import everything. And by the way, the return of the list for getting all the items were moved here. Because this is called register, if I keep this method as register, then I have to put item.register on top of this method call. And that's what I really don't like. So I changed this name to init, and now I don't need to say that, hey, it's item.register. We don't need that, or items.register, whatever it was. I don't need to do that. Basically, with that static import, because I changed this name, I'm golden. And that's a minor refactoring on these method names. The biggest one is this. Also, you notice that I moved back to using generics whenever I'm accepting the item directly. The main reason that I moved toward using generics is that, as I said, I want to dissect this section from this mod into a library mod and provide that to the community. And when you are providing something to the community as API, if you can use generics, it's better to use the generics because you don't know if the user may want to have this behavior or not. Of course, as you see, I didn't go back and dedicatedly say that these should use the classes. It will happen between the episodes whenever I have the time. But that was the massive code refactoring that I wanted to talk about. Of course, you can sit back, take a look at repository. You will see everything that I have here. One more thing is that you should make sure that things happen in order. And if you see now, I moved this mod armor materials in it before mod items. The reason is that I'm using registry here and I'm initting the mod materials now using this util class. And in mod items, I'm calling those registries to have my own armor material types. And what I'm talking about is this. I'm not inline initializing anything anymore. So it happens inside init. If I call a mod item definition that is using armor materials, well, I have to init the mod materials before the mod items. Let's go back to the concept of this video, having our data component types. When we have init, we have to call it. And honestly, data components, I would even put it before the events because I don't know where I should use it, when I should use it. Even in the events, maybe I will use a data component type. So I will initialize it before anything else. And that's something that I am just adding to be careful, to be cautious, to cover everything in every scenario. Now that we have this, finally, we can focus on these sections. The very first thing that we need is something that is immutable. The best thing that is immutable that is provided to us are records. Inside the records, I will add a new Java class and I will call it coordinate data. And this is a record, by the way. Now, coordinate data will have a block pose, and this is position. Also, it will have a string for dimension. And when we are providing a record like this, and we want to use component data types, basically we have to somehow make a codec for it, because we will read that codec later. I can write the codec myself. You can go back and watch the codec video. It's just simply adding a string string and then calling the codec on blog post. However, I added a plugin that lets me add codecs, and it will generate the codec for me. And honestly, as much as I looked into this code, the thing is correct. So we are basically making a blog post, field of post for getter the post, and then we have the string dimension for the dimension, and finally we are applying it on coordinate data. Just like that, we have a codec. We need packet codecs maybe if we want to send these information on the network. However, right now I will stop here and I will say that it's okay. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to create a packet codec. Unfortunately, that is not being added to the plugin yet. I hope that it will be added in future. The very first thing that we want here is a public static final component type. Now the component type needs a type definition, and we already said that it's coordinate data. We call it coordinate, and I will remove the initialization. Now inside the, let's remove that final part, I would say. Now inside the init, I will say, first of all, log something for me, and yes, it's referenced to my reference.log. Then we say coordinates equal to. Now we call a register method, and we don't have this register method yet. For this, we need to send in a name because we need an identifier and its coordinates. Then we want a builder that goes into builder.codec, and as you see, it's coordinates data.codec. Now, if I want to make this register method, I will go back into my utils registers, and here I will make a public static class, and I will call it data component type first. This is how I did it, by the way. And I will say public static that returns a T component type of type T, and we call it register name component type, but instead of component type, I want a unary operator of type component type T, and we call it build operator. Now that we have this, of course, we need to return something, but take note, this component type is net Minecraft component. So in front of it, I will type net Minecraft component dot that, and now I can remove this S component. And now I have the direct identifier from net Minecraft, and this can have this name on top. And every time I see component type here, like here, I need to directly assign the name, and this is our register method finally. Before implementing it, I come back here and I will say import static Jiraiya utils.registers.component type.star, and not here. God damn it, this is record inside my mod data component, and you see that it's now looking at this register, and my lambda is missing something. Builder.codec. What is wrong with you? Maybe get codec? No. Build operator. And the build operator is unary operator of, oh yeah, here we go. Component type dot builder. I missed that section. Okay, let's move it back a little bit. And now this should work. Yes, now that I have the register fixed, we need to implement our helper method. So we return registry.register. Registry is, instead of component type, we have data underline component type, and we want the identifier of the name, yes, and then build operator dot apply the builder dot, okay, we don't have the builder, we get the builder, and then the build. So what did happen here is that we are registering, like all the time, under the component types for the data. Then we have the identifier. These sections are always the same. We have an identifier and some type. And then we get this build operator. We apply on top of it a component type builder, and then we build the component type builder. And that's our registering. From now on, each time I want to have this component type registry, I don't care anymore. I have the utility class. So we defined our coordinate data. We have our component data type, and we added and initialized it. However, we didn't use it anywhere. So let's start using it. I will comment this whole section, and I will say context.getStack.set. Now, for the component data type, we say mod data component types dot coordinate. For the parameters, now you see we need a new coordinate data. So we say new coordinate data with context.getBlogPost, and of course the dimension. Now, do we have the dimension here? This is the dimension. We are putting a string under this name, and this is the dimension. Yes, so we are adding the dimension here, and that's it basically. So I will move this one down and break this one down, and that's it. So instead of all of this mumbo jumbo, I have this. Now, when I'm reading the data component type, let's search and find it. From the top, we are saying data equals to get component data and custom. That's not what we want right now. We want the coordinates. and we want it from mod data component. So if the data does not equal null, return the super use on block. So we set the data already. That's correct. Then we are setting the data. If we don't have the data, that's correct. If we are client side, we get the dimension, and that's the thing, and we just output coordinates to the chat. That's okay. When you are using it, here is another part. We are getting the stack on hand, and all we are doing is that we are using coordinate data. And if we are sneaking and data is not null, then we are setting this type of data to be null. Finally, use on entity and tooltip. Now, here again, we are reading the custom data using get. And here is the thing, nbt equals data.copy nbt. That's not what we want. We are saying that entity is player, data equals null, or if we are blacklist and return, that's okay. If we are not sneaking, then we want to use on the entity. And here we say the stack.get. So we really don't need that nbt anymore. So let's remove that part. And instead of reading the custom data type, we use the coordinates. If data is not null, then we don't have any nbt, remove that. And here we want to get a block pose. Let's see, data.pose. And that's our block pose, basically. As simple as that. And here is data.dimension. Simple, isn't it? Now look how much the code became easier. And use on entity result is the same thing, basically. Here we have the user and the entity. So I have to send in the data. And of course, I need to add nullable coordinates. Yes, please work. Yes, coordinate data. So if data equals to null, then please return action result passed. That's okay. We don't have NBTs. Block pose equals to data.pause, and dimension equals to data.dimension, and the whole thing should work. Again, here we say it's equal to data.dimension, and the whole thing should work again. That's the whole thing. Now we can remove this part. I will copy this, close it, and come back to the player. Now I will search the whole thing again because I'm doing the same thing here. I will say that here we are setting it. So this is the settings section. I will replace it here. Basically, it's the same thing. And then when I'm reading the data equals to get the data type that I want. If it's sneaking or if it's not null, then set this data type to null. Again, we don't need the NBT. Let's say if it was null or is empty, return. Yes, we don't want that because now we are sure that data is not null and it's a record, so it should have both the values. So here we say it's equals to data.pause. It's equals to data.dimension. And again, here we are using the coordinates, no NBT, no need to check the NBT. And finally, we say data.pause, data.dimension. And basically, I think that would be it because this is the tooltip, this is the use, and that was used on block. And that's it. So you may notice two things. First of all, we got rid of NBT. And because we got rid of NBT, we really don't care about NBT keys anymore. We won't have that issue and problem anymore. Also, we are sure that right now our data is immutable. So when we are setting it, we are getting the same data back and we don't need to do any sanity check anymore. Also, the getting of the data is much easier now. We just read the data type and that's it. The whole thing is there. And because we changed the data type to be a record, we can have our get methods and that's it. Really simple, really easy to handle, both on setting things and on nullifying, so removing the data and getting the info from the data. This is the beauty of using custom data types over using it with NBT data. Of course, I will leave the checking and making sure that there is no problems to you. And one more thing is that right now, in my reference and keys, of course, now I have a few different things that I'm not using anymore. Yes, teleporter and tuner, dimension, and pose. Why are you still being used? Where are you being used? You shouldn't be used inside. Oh, the event. Yes. And inside use on entity tuner pose. Let's take a look. Okay, here we go. This is a problem. It's an advanced tuner. Oh, okay. So instead of this NBT, we had changed it, didn't we? Because use is now using data here. And this is an extension of tuner item, so it should work now. And we say data.pause. And of course, we should check if data equals to null, we return action result the pass. So that's the position. And finally, data.dimension. Now going back to the reference, again finding the usages. It shouldn't happen inside the item itself. Now we have this listener callback. Inside registry, we are basically now doing things differently. So we get the stack. The data, here we go, needs to be changed to use our own data type. So we want this data type and we want coordinates. So if the data is not null, we don't have any NBT anymore. And let's take a look at what did I do. So this is the dimension. It's data.dimension. The position is data.position. So we don't have this part. We don't have this part. We don't have NBT. And again, the dimension is data.dimension. And everything again should work. So if I come back, these two are not being used anymore. And basically, I got rid of any NBT usage, because if you recall, these keys were being used inside NBT. Graying out means that I'm not using them in any NBT anymore. So get rid of that. Thanks to custom data type, I made things much more easier, both for reading, for handling things, and at the same time, much more robust solution, because in future, if by any chance Mojang drops the usage of NBT, I'm okay. I'm not using NBTs anymore on the data. If you want to expand upon this knowledge, an example of a custom data type would be item filters. Now, if you want to have item filters, you would have your own record that will store different things. One of those different things is the identifier of that item, then the number of counts on that item, maybe, I don't know, whatever information that is stored on that item stack that you want to keep track of. And then you will have your own codec and you will come back and add your own custom data type. Honestly, it's as easy as adding another line, because these are records and codecs on records. So you just duplicate this line, and you will have a new component type. And that's the beauty of it.
If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.